When the sun sets, the undead awaken. To slake their hunger, they feed upon the herd of unaware mortals. Right beneath our noses, the kindred clash against their rivals as they vie for control of the city of San Francisco. Are you strong enough to cheat final death and see another night? Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game from Renegade Game Studios.
Welcome everyone to Vampire Wednesdays. I am Sara Erickson and I am the Director of Sales and Marketing for Renegade Game Studios. And tonight we have a very, very special guest. We have our newest Renegade team member, Matt Holland, join us. Hey Matt, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good, good. I'm excited. It's Wednesday. I apologize. We missed last Wednesday. Things came up and didn't work out. So thank you all for your patience. Really appreciate that. But I am really excited because we've been waiting for a long time to do this. So Matt actually joined our team in December and got up to speed and has been working on a lot of very cool stuff and especially focused on things that the family is going to care about. So I want to make sure that I introduce him to all of you since he has your fate in his hands and tell us a little bit about what's going on with that. But before we get to Matt, I do have a few things. So I know that in the Discord channel, people were wondering about shipping. We had initially announced that we were going to be shipping in December. We really hoped that would be the case, but 2020 was not kind to us, as I'm sure many of you understand by now. And so without dwelling too deep into the details, we do not have shipping confirmation from our factory in China yet. We don't really have a good reason for why. All of the files are approved. Everything we've got looks great. We know that it's all good to go on our end, but things are just taking longer. I know that it's been really tough to get things on boats lately. There's just a lot of global disruption going on. So we will just do everything we can to be as transparent as possible, tell you everything that we know. At this point, we don't have your games on boats from the factory, but when we do, we will have the rest of the schedule pretty well defined and laid out, and you'll know when to expect your stuff. So that's just the shipping update, and we'll put all of that in a Vampire Rivals update through the Kickstarter as well here soon. But since you guys are here, you are our best fans, then we wanted to make sure that you knew. So you heard it here first. That's right. So that is update number one. And then update number two is that we have Matt here, and I'm really excited about it. So Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the new sales and marketing program manager here at Renegade. I previously spent 5 years at Asmodee in Fantasy Flight games, so I've been in the industry for a while. At Asmodee and Fantasy Flight, I did a lot of event planning and then joined the organized play team in 2019. So I've done a lot of things when it comes to the community, when it comes to interacting with people who play these games that I've worked with. Outside of that, I live in Minnesota, so I'm not Piggles or Awesomeness Coyote asked if I'm a vampire. I'm just Minnesotan. We're all pale. There's like 9 months of the year where it's too cold to show any exposed skin. So
that's a pretty good guess, though. Vampire makes sense.
It is thematic for me to be pale, but it's just a Minnesotan thing. And other than gaming, which I of course do a lot of, I'm a big like hiker, rock climber, camper. I love the couple months in Minnesota that we can be outside, taking advantage of that.
You gotta watch out for the mosquitoes in Minnesota. I hear that they're a little vampire-y as well.
They are, and for some reason they love to bite me. They don't bother my wife, but I have to use industrial strength bug repellent. But
no.
Sacrifice I'm willing to make because we do have some beautiful, lakes, rivers, environments like that up here.
All right. I don't know if that proves your vampire-ness, but that's all right. I will have to tell you really quick though. I understand that like not a lot of people like going outside in the nighttime, but vampires like to, and I've been doing a ton of night hiking, so I think you really need to get that on your repertoire. Like you do regular hiking, now do night hiking to be more
I
thematic.
have done a lot of night rock climbing, which is really fun.
Oh, there you go.
And can be particularly spicy, when you can't find the next anchor. But it looks really cool.
It probably does. That's exciting. Well, and then you don't know if you should be scared or not because you can't see the bottom, right?
Yeah, that's another plus. You have no idea how high you are.
That's a good plan. I like it. All right. So before we start talking too much about what you're doing specifically at Renegade, I did want to just delve a little bit deeper into what you did at Fantasy Flight because, like you said, you'd been there for 5 years and you worked on a lot of really cool stuff. So do you want to just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I spent the first portion of my time there doing just event planning, working with all the people who worked our events, so a large number of contractors and fans who came to demo games and teach people things. Planning our Gen Con stuff, planning PAXs, planning things like Star Wars Celebration, and attending a lot of those events too, and interacting with the people who came there to play our games and to hear about them. And then early 2019, I transitioned over to the organized play team at Fantasy Flight and did that for the rest of my tenure there. I was the community coordinator there, and the kind of primary role was to interact with the organized play communities. We had at the time 7 or 8 different games that had a full slate of OP activities. Really talk to the players, figure out what was working, what wasn't working, became a line of communication when things, when we had new exciting things to share and when things went wrong and we had to say, hey, we're aware this isn't going how it should be. And that gave me a lot of experience working with those communities. I also got to do stuff like help come up with prize concepts, help come up with the structure of some of the bigger events that we ran, and incorporate community feedback into that sort of stuff. So it was a lot of fun because some of the games that got me into the industry were those OP games, and being able to put my own sort of stamp and influence on them, I really enjoyed doing.
I think that's really relevant too, because with Vampire, we have an amazing community, people who have loved this world and everything that it means to them for over 25 years now. And yeah. I really appreciate that you have experience with things like Star Wars, where you also got to play around in these universes that people had so much knowledge of and so much excitement for. Yeah, and L5R, that community is just fantastically excited and really fun to energize. And you got to work with them too. So it's really neat to be able to see all of the things that you've done in those environments and then bringing you into the wonderful family that we have, I think is going to be really exciting. So talking a little bit more about that specifically, you're at Renegade now. Yay, we're excited to have you. And we're really working on gearing up to do more serious organized play. It's been a focus for us ever since the moment we found out that we got to work on Vampire the Masquerade. We knew that we wanted to do things that had to do with the community, and organized play just fits perfectly, especially with card games into that. And so we already had a pretty robust organized play program planned. Mm-hmm. But then you came onto the scene with fresh ideas and a new perspective and a lot of energy for that. So how do you fit into, and how does your role fit into what we have planned for organized play?
Well, to start off, you touched on the fact that a lot of the people who are in the vampire community, they've been fans of this for decades. A lot of times they have a really strong identity with like a clan or things like that they identify with. And I've spent a lot of this time since I started just getting more familiar with the world of vampire, because it is a thing that I have heard of and I knew some of the touch points of, but I haven't ever been immersed in it before. So there's been a lot of learning about that because I want to be able to incorporate that passion that people have and all the different things that make the world unique into the organized play plans. And coming in, seeing what you guys were already planning to do, and then be able to take some of the things that I've seen work or not work in the real world and make some adjustments, make some additions, I think has been a really nice collaboration. And it's been great to just combine my experience with everything else the Renegade team has been doing to kind of make something that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Definitely. I just want to interject really quick. We have a lot of new people here in the chat, which is awesome. It's great to see everybody. I'm sure you're all just actually Matt fans, which is fine. But if you do have any questions about Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game in general, or if you have any specific questions for Matt, anything in the realm of whatever questions you have, please post those in chat because we will be asking them. I'll be watching the chat live as we go. So ask any of your questions. Don't mind you're interrupting us. That's totally fine. Oh, good. Okay, go for it. Let's have a question. Hi, Desiree.
I think we were going to
all
get to
right.
that, but I'll give you a spoiler.
There we go. That's
I have
good.
not played Ventru, is it yet? But so far my favorite is Malkavian. I think the conspiracy mechanic is really clever, and it reminds me in a really good way of Android Netrunner. That kind of like the agendas, and you don't know exactly what's underneath there, and you're trying to advance that. Really enjoyed playing them. I do need to play more Vampire because I've only played a handful of games so far, but so far Malkavian.
I don't know if that's allowed because that's my favorite clan, and if we're gonna battle, then you need to pick another.
It's just
one.
inter clan rivalry. I mean, I'm sure that happens.
Well, that's
Power
okay.
struggle.
I guess it's fine. It's fine. I knew I'd hired the right person. If you like Malkavian, we're gonna so much discord and craziness. It'll be wonderful.
I'll interject with another thing. Someone who is in the chat said if they're new and don't know much about Vampire, head to vampirecardgame.com. That's a dedicated mini site for the Vampire Rivals card game that you can find all sorts of information on.
Yeah, and we're working on even expanding that website. So we have a lot of very exciting stuff we're announcing, hopefully very soon. But in general, we're making that site a hub for all the information that you need, all of the resources that you want as a card deck builder outside of the game. Anything else, if you're looking up cards, we'll have a card resource tool on there. So it's going to have a lot more good stuff. Definitely go to the site, register, get on the forums, and we'll be posting stuff on there, especially once we get going. So it's a good place to bookmark.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Oh, Coyote has a question. Coyote is here almost every single week, if not every week. If you've missed any weeks, Coyote, you have to let us know. But yes, I think he's been here every week, and he has a plan or a question. He wants to know, do you have a plan for making alternate art cards with uniquenesses like making the Bruja with spray paint background, Ventru background being gold and silver, Toreador being shiny, and so on? So the simple answer to your question is we have so many cool promo ideas and different things that we want to do and prizes, and we do have some stuff we want to talk about with that in a little bit, but not specifically. Those are really super cool ideas. Thank you.
Yeah,
I like that.
I will say that aspect of the game, how the clans have a very distinct kind of visual style and visual language, is something that I hope we can play on for organized play prizes, especially when you have a game like this where somebody maybe is a really big, Ventru fan or Malkavian, being able to, have cool swag that shows that identity too, I think is really cool. It's a thing that happened at FFG with L5R, with Game of Thrones, especially because those have such strong identities for each different clan or house. But it also worked for other games as well. And it also gives a way to like reward, even if you're playing like a clan that's off meta, is just not considered as good as another clan at a given point in the game. You could be the best player in that and still get some cool swag that is unique to your clan. So yeah, lots of ideas along those lines, but nothing specific that we can share quite yet.
All right, Matt, after this, I have a task for you. You need to go to your ideas board, which is 100% not approved, by the way. And we need to put flip-flops, just another type of shoe, some type of shoes on there as promo items. That's what I want. And anyone who has watched our previous live streams will get that one. We do have another question. How does Vampire Rivals appeal to someone who is more casual and isn't a fan of having to build decks? Does it have pre-constructed decks? I can actually answer this one. So the core box does come with 4 pre-constructed decks, and what's called a crypt pack, which is extra cards for each of those clans, those 4 clans, with cards that you could swap in and out, or you could mix and match the decks, have multiple clans per deck. There are deck building and construction rules like that, but you don't have to worry about that. If you just want to play with the cards in the pre-constructed decks, you'll already have those. So it's super easy to play straight out of the box. You don't have to worry about any of that. If you're more of like a board gamer or more used to that style of play where you just open a box and put it on the table and start playing, you can definitely do that with Vampire. But if you're also the type of person who wants to fine tune everything and spend a lot of time thinking about what's going to be the best tournament deck, and you want to show up at Gen Con and be part of a huge event with lots of people battling to be the top person, that's also going to be a thing. So we want to have space and excitement for every player on that spectrum, because you're all very important. So, and yeah, it is relatively easy to jump in. I would say if I were brand new to like board games and card games, I've never played a TCG or anything like that. There are easier games out there, but this one is not incredibly complicated. There's enough strategy and depth that you can get into it, but it's not going to blow your mind.
And Renegade's made, deliberate decisions to make it accessible, where we can, like having those pre-constructed decks in there. It's not the simplest card game I've ever played, but that depth is rewarding and gives you a lot to explore. And we try to make it easy to get there too.
Definitely. Tabletop Santa would like to ask how it's going. Hi, Rick.
I think that's probably Richard, and it's going pretty good.
Nice. He also says lapel pins with the clan logos would be cool and a throwback.
That's on my idea board already, man.
Nice. I like it. Awesome. So we do have more questions on my exciting list of questions for you that I made before this, but please, anybody watching, still post your questions in chat and we will get to them.
Hey, Sarah. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt again. There is a Facebook question, but there's also a question that was a little bit earlier that you might have missed. It was right before we got to taking questions in chat, but does this game have a recognizable model, i.e. core set, and then expansions? How many core sets should someone buy?
That's a great question. So if you want to have exactly one copy of every card, then you can just buy one copy of the core set. If you want to be able to play with a full set of your favorite card in a deck and just build it one time and then leave it alone, and then have another deck that you've also built that uses a full set of that same card, then it makes sense to buy 2 core sets if you want to just build decks and then leave them alone. But that's absolutely not required. Every single card that you could possibly get, as far as that goes, will be in either the core set or will be available as promos that you can buy on our site or that you got through the Kickstarter. So there are going to be some cards that are special, that have unique gameplay, that will be really, really easy for you to get if you care and want them. We never want to see those cards on eBay for like $1 bazillion million. That would be terrible. We want them to be really easy for you to get. And I'm sorry, there was another half of that question. That was the second half. What was the first half,
It's just a recognizable model.
Yeah.
It's the expandable card game model that there's the core set and then expansions. There's no randomness, not collectible, anything like that.
Yep. No collectability. And yeah, we have announced that we have the first expansion, which is already done. It's basically almost ready to go, because the slowdown in the core set was actually just on the like shipping and logistics side of things, and so we're kind of getting a little bit caught up. So you'll have an expansion very, very soon after the core set, which I think is great because it's 2 new clans. So right off the bat, you're going to end up having 6 different clans that you can play with very quickly after the core set with the initial 4 comes out. So it'll be nice that way. We'll have a lot of good content that you can dig into right off the bat. And then, yeah, more expansions coming out after that. Actually, if you were part of the Kickstarter, you even got to do a survey, which was a vote towards which clan we wanted to have in a future expansion. And we'll have news on that soon.
Oh, yeah.
Very
I even know
soon?
who won, but we're not going to tell you yet.
All right, very, very, very soon we will tell you about that. So yes, that's coming up as well, but we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So I want to get a good shipping update, and then we'll tell you. All right, so let's talk about organized play a little bit more.
Sure.
We are working on the final touches of everything we need to be able to actually announce the whole organized play program, give you all the details that you're looking for, and really let you dig in and ask all your questions, but not quite tonight. So tonight we're talking more in general. So Matt, here's my question for you. Why do we even want organized play? Like, why does it matter? We could
Sure.
just put out, I mean, there are companies that just put out board games and then the board game goes out and then nothing else ever happens with it. Why is this different?
Uh, a game like Vampire that has that sort of head-to-head aspect, uh, organized play is just a huge stimulant for a game like that. It gives people a reason to play over and over again, to hone that deck, to look for those new cards and try and figure out a way to use a card that maybe they've had for a while, but they haven't seen work in the past. It gives them that meta to build against, or if you're someone who doesn't want to go crazy, like you can follow the meta and get some cool suggestions for a deck or a way to play. Uh, Especially then when we get back to something that's a little bit more normal post pandemic. Organized play is also just great in the sense that if you walk into a game store, you see 8 people in back having a great time playing a game. Often you're going to wonder, what game is that? What's so cool about that? How can I be a part of that group that's having such a good time? And that helps the community grow. It helps the vampire community grow. More people discover the game, more opponents for all of you to play against. And that's why I think we need to have the OP.
Definitely. And I completely agree with that. I don't know if I've talked about this very much, but I've owned a hobby store for the last 15 years. And I love seeing people get excited about a new game and then find out that there are other people they can play with. Because if you have a community of people, even if it's online, maybe if you're playing at home, but you still are able to talk to people about this shared experience that you're having playing this game together, it matters a lot and it just adds to that experience. And it really does make this thing that was just like a $45 product turn into an entire hobby that's super
Yeah.
fun and gives you something to think about during the day. It's just so much more when you take it to that next level. And
say the lifestyle game, and that's what we want Vampire to be able to be for people if that's what you're looking for. And the community that organized play makes is a huge part of a game being a lifestyle game.
Yeah, and especially for Vampire the Masquerade, I think that it's one of those things that people have loved for so long that now having an extra thing that they can do with it, and then also other people who care about it that they can share that experience with, is just that much better. So very, very cool. So yeah, that's why we're doing organized play, because it gives people a reason to play and is exciting, and it gives us an excuse to give you prizes, which I also like. Um, so the next thing is, when you're thinking about that organized play program, what's the most important thing when you're starting it from scratch? What are you trying to keep on the top of your mind that whole time you're thinking about that program?
For me, I think it's very important that organized play is both accessible but also aspirational. I want it to be something that anybody can show up at their local game store and have some sort of event that they can play in. Those weekly game nights where the group gets together, play some informal games, maybe get some participation promos, or they have a small tournament. That kind of thing is so important because you want to have that entry ramp for anybody who wants to try it. But for the people who get into it really big, I also want to have something to aspire to, a store championship type thing, or a larger event at a con that you can go. The competition's stiff, the prizes are really cool, and you think, oh, cool, I made top 32. Next year, I'm going to come back and try and do better. That aspirational thing just gives you a motivation to play and to improve and to practice, and that's having both is very, very important to have a balanced program.
Definitely. And I think that's something to keep in mind for this community right now, is that it's true, we can't go to huge events right now. We don't have any idea when we're going to be able to, but we have a lot of ideas for things that we can do online that'll still be fun and aspirational and still good for people who just want to play casually. So we're thinking about that really hard because I do think that's an important part of this. So definitely. So thinking back to your time at FFG, what are some of the programs that you were able to do there that you're really proud of? And even if we can't do those types of programs with Vampire Rivals, or maybe not because of the pandemic, you did some really cool stuff. So tell us about something you really enjoyed there.
I really liked the sort of standalone event series that FFG ran. So they had the Kotais for L5R, the Galactic Qualifiers for Star Wars Destiny, System Opens for X-Wing, and Vault Tours for Keyforge. Those were not part of any sort of, hierarchy of organized play events, but they were just kind of a showcase of each game, a great excuse to come out and play. And they had really good prizes and a really good way of giving them out, in the sense that if you really cared about, a playmat, or really cared about alt art cards, you could spend your sort of points accrued to get the prizes that were most appealing to you. It wasn't me saying, hey, here, you get this card. It's kind of like the Chuck E. Cheese tickets, go and spend your tickets and get your prizes. I think that was really cool. It's a lot of work to do. It's definitely something to work up to with a game like Rivals, but it's kind of like a festival of the game. And every time I went to one of those, or interacted with someone who'd been to one, they just talked about how much fun they had. They had this great weekend. They met new friends. They had good competition. Even if they got their butt kicked nonstop, it's just a really good time.
We had these things when I was part of the World of Warcraft trading card game organized play team. We did these things called Dark Moon Fairs. And so in the World of Warcraft online game, the Dark Moon Fair was this online event. It was a special place in the world that would travel around to different zones. And when you found it on the map and you went there, it was like a carnival. There were all sorts of fun, weird themes. There were special prizes you could get. There was stuff that only ever happened at the Dark Moon Fair. And it wasn't all the time. You had to be paying attention to the calendar to know when it was happening and then go seek it out. And so we did the TCG real life version of that, where we would have these events that traveled around all over the world. So I only went to the ones in the US, but we had a European team that did those as well. And when you went to the event, it was all themed just like the carnival and the Dark Moon Fair and the online game. And there were special prizes you couldn't get anywhere else. And there were just fun, silly events like bounty tournaments where all of the employees would play against the regular people at the event. And if you were playing against one of the employees, you had a chance at getting special prizes or affecting the gameplay for everybody, just silly things that would happen. And it was great to just be so immersed. I think that's one thing that I really look forward to post-pandemic, is creating these experiences for people that take you outside of reality and put you in this place that you love so much and that you really feel like you're there.
Yeah, and it's a great sense of escapism you get. I was lucky in 2019 to go to the European Championships in Krakow, Poland, and there was just an energy there of everybody's out of their regular worries, their regular life for that 4 days, and you can just immerse yourself in the community and your friends. That's the thing that I think that we've all really missed in 2020. So getting back to that kind of thing and having something like that for Vampire, I think would be absolutely awesome.
So since we're not quite there yet, we're still in 2020 plus is how I'm thinking of 2021. How do you see organized play shifting? Like, what are we going to see, not specifically, but in general, kind of at the beginning of this year? And then as we shift towards being able to do some more in-person events, how do you see that going?
Well, I mean, obviously the big events, they're out really regardless of where you are, between the work it is that's planning those and the runway you need to pull those off. It's going to be a while before we have something big like that. Fortunately, all you Kickstarter backers are going to get that first OP kit when you get the game. So what I'm hopeful for is that whether you're doing this in your own private game group, you're doing this at your local friendly game store, that those kits will get put to use, introducing new people to the game, getting people just playing and thinking, building decks, starting to play. In the meantime, we're also going to be working on some stuff that we can maybe engage with people while we're still waiting for the game to arrive, because I know people are getting antsy. They want to play. They want to maybe start competing. We hope to maybe have some information on things like that coming up. But we've also got plans that we are working on for when we do get those big events, so that we can have, an appealing, exciting experience, and we're not just going to be scrambling and starting from scratch. I want to make sure that, if Gen Con happens and we're able to go and all have a good time there, that we have a really compelling experience for everybody. So we're putting in the legwork right now, even though we don't know when it's going to come to fruition, to have that planned out.
We definitely know at some point we're going to do an awesome tournament. We just don't know when. So if we make everything and it's all sitting in our warehouse and ready to go, that's fine. I'd rather have that than have to scramble and not have something really amazing happen. So we'll get there. It'll be sweet. Yes, it will be good. Again, if you have any questions for Matt, please post those in chat. And Tabletop Santa, you have lots of great ideas, like Prince of South Bend. I believe that is that Illinois, South Bend, Illinois.
Indiana. My sister
Indiana. Lives. Oh, okay. I wonder if there's a
home
South
of Notre
Bend.
Dame.
Oh, fancy. Okay, that's good. Nice. Yeah. Well, maybe we do need a Prince of South Bend then one day. Awesome. All right. So we touched on this just a little tiny bit, but what are some of your favorite types of prizes for tournaments? I know that's a pretty wide open question, but anything that just pops into your head.
Well, in addition to the faction-based prizing that I mentioned before, a prize that I loved and I think was really well received with pretty much every game that I dealt with at Fantasy Flight was the plastic spot gloss cards. So they're almost like a credit card material. They're stiff. They have the beautiful art, usually like either alt art or expanded art and retemplated, and then UV spot gloss coating on certain parts. So you can turn them and get that nice little glint. Those are great for, they can't go into your deck, obviously, because they are very, very clearly not a card. But Vampire, we're lucky, has both the agendas and the havens that don't go into your deck. And those are a sort of centerpiece to your deck. And the plastic cards are a really nice functional piece of bling for your favorite deck or your favorite agenda. I really hope to be able to do something like that for some of the things in Vampire, because I just think they look really cool, and they were always a hit with people. I also love, I hate touching cardboard, so fancy tokens of any type, be they metal, acrylic, that kind of stuff, I just think feels much more satisfying when I'm stacking them and putting damage on someone.
Definitely. I love upgrading my game. I maybe back way too many Kickstarters, and anytime I have an option for fancy shiny things, I'm all over that. I can't wait for the upgraded tokens for Vampire. I think anybody who did the highest level all-in backer level for our Kickstarter is going to be really happy with those. But Matt's totally right. There's a ton of different places we can upgrade in this game. We've had lots of good ideas from all of our fans. Anybody watching this who's been commenting, the whole family has had lots of good ideas. So I can't wait to actually start doing some of them. But we already have done alternate art vampire cards, the alternate art leader cards that come with the Kickstarter. Those are super beautiful, and I think people will be really happy with those. They're neat because they take the regular vampire that's sitting there all nice and proper and then shows their hardcore vampire side. And we'll be doing some more alternate art stuff for sure, but bleeding stuff out is a whole other level I'm excited to do.
And I think the other thing that is important, while we will have some prizes that are gameplay unique, and those are going to make sure are accessible to anybody, because we don't want to have someone who won a tournament now has an advantage over everyone else in perpetuity by any means. Having you want to make the prizes that are not gameplay unique special and look really cool, so that people want to have them. People want to have that item and upgrade their deck in some way. So
definitely, yep. Everybody gets a fair shot at that stuff.
Zoidas Prime, you have not missed the results on the clan vote because we haven't shared it yet. But stay tuned for the near future.
That's right. Very soon. Somebody else was asking about Grengill. I just forgot how words work. Another clan. Yeah, we have not posted Gangrels. We have not posted that we were doing anything with them yet, but I do like puppies, so we will see one day. All right, so that was all about prizes. Yes, we will have cool prizes. Also, what are your favorite types of just events in general? Because it's great to have cool
Sure.
prizes, but they don't matter a whole lot unless you're having fun actually playing the game.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
In addition to those kind of like big celebrations of the game, a kind of event that I think is very important is at Fantasy Flight they were called regional championships or prime championships, but it's that it's that first step into the larger meta or larger game community for a lot of players. It's an event that has appeal, that they're not so many that there's one in every single game store. So there's a little bit of exclusivity and that kind of mystique of it, but they have great prizes. They draw people in from maybe 4 or 6 hours away. So you show up to your game store, you see all your buddies that you play with normally, but there's like this group over here, and there's another group over here, and you realize, oh, they came up from Omaha, they came in from Chicago, came down from Fargo, and you'll play against people you've never met before. You'll play against play styles and maybe decks that you've never encountered before. You'll win some cool prizes, and it's that first step into the larger world for a lot of players, and it's both a lot of fun, and I think it's just important to give an accessible way to kind of expand your horizons and engage with the larger community.
Definitely. Yeah, I will never ever forget the first Magic event I went to because I learned how to play Magic as my very, very first hobby game. I'd never heard of Settlers of Catan or anything like that before. I'd never played any type of game like that, just video games. I heard about this new video game called Magic the Gathering. And it was beta of their online Magic version. And so I played the TCG online, loved it, got super into it. I was in like an all girls league where we battled it out and won tournaments, and it was all sorts of fun. And then I went to college and I met other people who actually played real life Magic with physical cards, and I thought that was pretty exciting. And so I played that a little bit, and then they all said, hey, there's this tournament, it's about 6 hours away, do you want to jump in the car and go to this thing? And I said, why not? Like, what else do I have to do? So we all got in the car and we went to this event. And I had never been to even a store that played Magic, played not even a 5-person tournament. And I walk into this place, it was an entire convention center with probably 1,000 people playing Magic.
Oh,
and it was just shocking that there were so many people there in one place that cared so much about this thing that I had been loving sort of on my own in this little tiny bubble for years. And then to see physically that many people enjoying it all together was just really, really astounding. So I love giving people that experience of just feeling. Being, feeling of being with people that care about this thing that you also care about. And organized play is super cool for that, and big events are really, really fun for that. But even just walking into a store and seeing 3 other people that care about the thing you care about is also really, really cool.
And that's why I like this kind of that level of event, because it's not maybe as intimidating as a 1,000-person like Grand Prix or something, but it's a little bit more comfortable. I mean, my third X-Wing tournament ever was the regional championship here in the Twin Cities. And like round 3, I play a guy. I'm like, oh, like, hey, I'm Matt. He's like, hey, I'm Doug. And somebody's like, that's the current world championship. Like, he's the current world champion.
Wow.
And it was a great experience. Awesome guy. I met people at that tournament, like a friend of mine, Wade, that I am still friends with to this day. 8 years later, at my first, regional level event. So I think it's very important to have something that someone who's not like ready to maybe go totally nuts can get comfortable, and then when they show up to that big 100-person event, it's like, hey, I know this guy, and then I met this girl, at the tournament. They've kind of got their roots, that root system to support them.
Definitely. We have some really good questions about both multiplayer events and also judges and other support fans, as I like to call them. So for multiplayer events, this is a multiplayer game. So we already have that framework set up that we can use a little bit. But Matt, just from your experiences, you've also worked on some games that had multiplayer formats. What are you kind of looking for in that, or anything special that we can do because it's a multiplayer game?
Yeah, it's really nice to have that built in. It is tricky in the sense that like writing tournament rules when you're going to have more than just a one-on-one has some extra, gotchas and things to watch out for. And I'm actually working on that right now. So figuring out scoring and things like that to make a, 4-player game feasible is a fun challenge. But we definitely want to support, all the different ways to play. And because Vampire is so much about the interplay between clans and that conflict, we don't want to just only have people play one-on-one. It is really important to experience it in that larger way, and the interplay of things, that changes with more players. So we're going to make sure that we have actual official events that support, the whole range. So you'll have something to do, and even if it's a big event that's 4-player, I want to have a side event or something that's 1v1, gives people the option to experience it and maybe get a taste of everything when they play.
Yeah, and I also think it's really important that, and part of the reason we haven't announced the whole organized play program yet is that on day one of the organized play program, the minute you have cards in your hand, we want you to understand what the different formats are. That doesn't mean we won't change things in the future as we get more information, or we might add new formats, but I want everybody to be on the same page. So if I'm playing here in Montana and Matt's playing in Minnesota, he and I can get online and have a conversation about a format, and we're both on the same page and know what we're talking about, and we know we're playing the same game. I think tournament rules are absolutely just as important as any of the rest of the rule book, and having more than one format that people can choose from is also really important. So we want to be able to give people supported tournament structures right from day one. So we're working on that, and it's getting pretty close. I'm pretty happy with it.
Coyote was asking about judges and support people.
Yep.
I worked with a lot of fantastic judges at FFG. I would encourage anybody who worked with me in the past, if you were interested in Vampire, start playing the game, learn the rules, because when we get back to having these larger events, we are going to need people to run them. And there's a lot of people I worked with at FFG who I would love to continue to have a relationship like that with. So I think at the store level, we're going to pretty much leave that up to the game store to wrangle that. But for anything bigger, we're going to want a pool of people who are familiar with the game and who we know can be professional and handle a big event.
And not only that, but we're actually going to have support for those different roles through our website as well. So if you are committed to this game, if you're listening in chat right now, we already know that you are. If you're interested in being part of this bigger community, then this is for you, and make sure you do go and register on our site. And very soon we're going to have some different role options that you can pick for yourself and different ways that you can get involved a little bit more. Because we know, especially you here tonight, are going to be the people who are going to help us do that. So I can't wait. That's going to be exciting. And we have lots of work for you to do if you want. Don't worry. What other good questions do we have? Seems like we're getting through some of them.
You're asking about like prizes or playmats for judges. That's the thing that I enjoyed having in the OP kits I've dealt with in the past. Like something even at the store, like a small store event, something in there for the person who ran that event, because oftentimes they won't play and will kind of sacrifice their night out of the house to provide this event for somebody else. So I want to include, something like that, whether it's a playmat or a special card or something for the people who are doing that.
Definitely. There's also a really good question about rotations. That is something that we will announce alongside the organized play program. I think just as important as the tournament rules themselves, it's important to understand any rotation information, because that's always something that people ask about. It's something that you want to know going in. which cards are going to last for how long and what does that look like and what are the different formats where that works. That's all wrapped in together. So we will have an answer for that, and you won't have to be waiting or making decisions without all that information. You'll know that very soon. Another good question, how is playtesting for the game handled? Actually, Desiree, who's helping us out with our video backend stuff, if you don't mind getting the link for our Renegade Playtesters Facebook group, that would be fantastic. So we actually have a group that you can become part of, and we do all of our playtesting, not just for Vampire the Masquerade Rivals, but also for all of our other games. And that group is run by one of our on-staff game developers. So if you go in there, there are some questions, you have a form to fill out, and then you can be part of that group as well, based on his qualifications. So yeah, we do have a lot of playtesters. I know a lot of people who come and join us on Wednesdays often are in our playtest group. So we're really grateful for all of their extra hard work they put into it. And thank you, Desiree, for posting that link.
Dan Solo asks about, if this OP stuff's going to be available worldwide or just the US. We are definitely conscious of the fact that we have players not in the US. We want to make sure that, especially like store level stuff, absolutely all over. As we ramp up to bigger events, I also want to make sure we have those available, not just in the United States. Vampire is big in Europe, so they're an area that we're keeping an eye on, but other places too. I can't promise that every single type of event will be everywhere, just due to logistics and knowing if we have the player base there to support it, but we are very cognizant of the fact that there are players all over. And then Big Herbs is asking about Gen Con. If Gen Con happens, in a form that makes sense, we absolutely will have a big tournament there, because just an easy thing to do for people who already want to go to this big event, haven't been to a big event in a year and a half now. We want to make it special and want to have something there for people.
I have a question for people in the chat, actually, if you guys want to answer this for me. If Gen Con happens, would you go? I'm really curious how the sentiment is. I mean, I, of course, would really love to go, but I don't know if I would be able to. So do you think that that's possible, that you'll be able to go and that you would want to go? So if you want to post your answer to that in the chat, I'll be watching. I'm very curious. But yeah, that's part of the plan, is to have everything ready to go. If we can get all of the prizes made, the whole organized play plan ready to go now, then even if Gen Con doesn't happen, or we're not able to go and do the tournament we want to do there, then we still have all of that ready for whenever that big event is possible to host. And it might be the case that we do it outside of another big event, or we might do it as part of PAX Unplugged, or it might be in 2022. We don't know the answers to these questions yet, because we're waiting for more information, like the rest of the world. But we want to be ready, and we don't want to miss it. Yeah. So we're getting there.
The worst thing would be if Gen Con can happen and we carried on thinking, oh, it's not going to happen. We don't want to end up in that situation. So we're going to be ready for whenever stuff starts to occur again. We're going to be ready to show up.
Nice. I see a lot of people are saying that they would come and hang out with us, depending on safety concerns. Same here, makes sense. But if you can, you would be there. That's very, very exciting. I hope we get to all see each other sometime this year. But yeah, it is definitely a question of just prioritizing and having a plan that we can actually do. So the more we can do now and get ready, the better. And hopefully we will see you guys soon. Well, we are almost out of time for this evening. It seems like all of you are very much excited that Matt's joined us, as are we. So we are happy to have him here. And if you guys have any specific questions for him after this, you can, or maybe you're watching this later, you can always go and post in Discord. I'm going to make Matt go and check Discord every once in a while now, and then he can answer your questions there. Desiree, if you could post the link to our Discord channel one more time, that would be amazing. Hey, she's way ahead of us.
I am super humbled by everyone's, love and support and everything. I'm glad that, I made a good impression at Fantasy Flight, and I hope to do the same here at Renegade.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you on our team. It'll be wonderful. This community is very lucky to have you. So awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being here. We will be back next Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific here on Twitch and also on Facebook. No matter where you're watching, we will be there. And we look forward to showing off some more components that we received in the mail this week and sharing some more information as we have it. Hopefully we'll have a good shipping update for you next week. And in the meantime, we'll see you on Discord. Have a wonderful week. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.